Hey guys, it's Matt. I want to share with you some really strange research I've done on what they tell us our genus and species is Homo sapien sapien. Why does Homo sapien sapien, with the species repeated twice, keep popping up? There was all sorts of inconsistencies in terms of what I believed they would present as, quote, our genus and species, and other versions of Homo sapien, which is all news to me. So the most important part of this, maybe you skip to the end if you don't want to go through all of this with me. I think it's an interesting exercise. But we need to disown this genus and species with an intention or an affirmation or a proclamation. Just do it on your own today. Disown this. Don't replace it with another scientific genus and species. And eventually, guys, we need to really disown our own legal fiction names. Just as a good friend likes to be referred to as Falcor in the Neverending Story, that is much more what we need to do than keep in our own minds calling ourselves the name of the legal fiction. I mean, I don't want to be faced with my higher self, whatever your belief set is, whatever you call God, and then that same conversation after death. I don't want to be faced with, of all you studied reality, Matt, you didn't do the simplest of things. You didn't. You had the power to etherically detach from the biggest cord, the biggest Jacob Marley chain that system had on you, what it classified you as a genus and species, and your legal fiction name. You had the ability in a 5-second proclamation, announcement, or affirmation to separate from it, and you didn't. Nuwanda was what the kid wanted to be called in Dead Poet Society. It's a truth drop. We need just pause it now and say and dissociate from it, and then come up. Literally, I've got it. We have to come up with our own true name on our own. This is the most basic of the basic things. Somebody will be faced with our higher selves, looking at ourselves or whatever your belief set is, and say, all this research you guys did, and you dumb sons of bitches didn't do the. I'm saying this. I'm in this group with you. Somebody's talking to me too. You dumb sons of bitches didn't do the simplest things to detach from what they said you are. At a minimum, or a place to start right now, is I'll just say, for my own affirmation, science, you can classify my body or my avatar any way you want. I mean, it is in no way affects who I am. I am not what you say I am or what you say my body is. I work symbiotically with my body. I appreciate my body. I respect my body the best that I can. But it is not, it wants the science on behalf of the not milk system wants you to believe in every fiber of your being, believe that's who you are. Constantly, it just constantly shows you something else in the mirror and says, this is what you need to believe yourself to be. It's one of its main tricks, but let's just move on. So the research started out very strange in terms of looking something up and saying, what exactly does Homo mean in Homo sapien? What exactly does sapien mean in Homo sapien? There shouldn't be anything simpler. There shouldn't be anything more easy to look up than this. Yet it took me 20 to 25 minutes of comparing and different strange definitions. As wait a second, growing up, Homo sapien, wise man. I thought the Homo was the wise, and the sapien was as having to do with man, because I start with definitions like this, what I remember from high school. It turns out the sapien means the wise, but you start out like this: sapien, of or relating to humans. Oh, well, that must be the man part. Homo must be wise. I mean, of course, to me, it's a prefix that always means same, but whatever. So you start, it's nebulous to start with. It's just weird. You'll see how it gets weirder. And these are from, the major outlets, Britannica, Merriam-Webster's, dictionary.com, whatever. I'm not looking on page 12 for this stuff. It's right on, this is what comes up. Okay, sapiens, of pertaining to or resembling modern humans. So I thought, well, again, this must be the man part, right? Homo, wise. So this is what I'm thinking as I'm starting. Okay, it didn't take too long, but then you come across, okay, no, wait, sapien is the one that means wise, and homo, more about the man. Not that there's anything, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're doing it in a different sense here. Look, okay, but I'm saying there shouldn't be anything more simple to look up. What does Homo sapien mean as it relates to a human being? There should be 400 web pages telling you exactly what each component is. It shouldn't take me even 30 seconds to figure, but it took a while. Okay, I'm not stupid, but eventually, oh no, it's the sapien means wise. Okay, then the Homo must mean the man. All right, just so we never forget, let's do the My Cousin Vinny. Put the hands up. Identical. Sapien. One who knows. Unlike those two poor sons of bitches over there that are going away for life because they robbed the sack of suds. Okay, early on in my research, I was researching the prefix homo in relation to the genus and species Homo sapien. It's the genus that includes, here reading, modern humans, Homo sapien. Our ancestors, it says, had names like Homo neanderthalis. Neanderthal man. Our ancestors? Well, first of all, I don't consider any of these crawl around creatures my ancestors. Okay, let's get that straight. None of them are my ancestors. But I always was taught Neanderthal man was not in our line. Now he is, so we'll need to address that. And I was always told Homo erectus or Homo erection was always in my line. But as I see things now, none of these crawl around creatures were in my line. What I am is not even Homo sapien. I declare myself to be something different. But let me not stray too much. Let me just read the last paragraph, then we'll talk about it. Homo is a Latin word that means man or human. It does? With us? When it's used as a prefix, though, as in homosexual, it comes from the Greek word homos, meaning the same. It is from the word homosexual that the noun homo is shortened and takes its second meaning, a derogatory term for a gay man. What? What does that have to do with what's being presented here at genus and species? Why does the not nilk have to work that in? Its use is offensive, and we should use other terms instead. It said, what somebody researching scientific taxonomy or taxidermy or whatever you mount on the damn wall. What does that have to do with the research that I'm doing? Not Nilk, why do you have to throw that shit in? You could have used any. There's tons of words like homophone we use a lot in this community. Where they love homophones to present meaning and truth in things. Words that are spelled differently but sound the same, with the most notable one in our research being on the back of the dollar bill, the EYE, and I'm going to chop wood, not EYE going to chop, but they use homophones like that. The other example is that we need to be aware of in our research, homonym, is when it's the same, but it means something different. Like the bear crapped in the woods, and then that's B-E-A-R, and then I will bite my thumb at him, at that Montague, if he will bear it. Do you bite your thumb at me, sir? Yeah, if you will bear it. If he will bear it, I will bite my thumb. That's the same B-E-A-R. It's not B-A-R-E like a bare ass. This one I found early on. The Latin noun homo means human being or man in the generic sense of human being, mankind. The binomial name Homo sapiens was coined by Carl Linnaeus, 1758, named for other species of the genus were introduced beginning in the second half of the 19th century. Homo neanderthalensis, Neanderthal man, and Homo erectus. Here, notice they are separate species. Separate species behind the genus Homo, but separate species. Neanderthal man has always been presented as separate to me. Oh, we'll see where this goes. Check this out. Other groups have been identified as subspecies of Homo sapiens. That's what they say you are, including Neanderthalis. HS Neanderthalis is like the USS Minnow. HS Neanderthal. That means Homo sapien, subspecies Neanderthal, which most researchers later reclassified as the species H. neanderthalis. So, okay, this is what I researched. Half of what I was pulling up, and I didn't spend hours and hours on this and take a field trip to the Library of Congress, but half were presenting it like it was its own. That's what was always taught to me, like in 10th or 11th grade, that Neanderthal man line died out. It is in no way related to your lineage. When I believed in all that Darwin stuff in high school, but it also is presented several times. I'll show you another example. It's presented as Neanderthal man is presented as Homo sapien, with a subspecies of Neanderthal. That's where the Homo sapien sapien comes from. That we've heard about this for 20 years, but I was trying to get to the bottom of that as well. What's okay when we were in 5th grade, 10th grade, we were Homo sapiens. That's what they told us. That's not what I am. Now I know that's not what I am, but I don't have to keep saying that. But what's Homo sapien sapien? Why are they listing it twice? Is that a typo? I don't know what it was. Like 25 years ago, maybe came over something where it said the human being's called Homo sapien sapien. And I came across it again a few years later, and I didn't think much of it. Well, why is it being repeated? Homo sapien sapien. What's strange is I was trying to do some research on it. Well, why does this extra sapien exist? And of course, there is nothing that points to exactly why this popped up 20 to 25 years ago, but now they're going away from it. And it's just strange. To me, it is nefarious. You think I was going to make this presentation without talking about everything that the Not Nilk does in a major sense like this is nefarious. So, of course, it's not going to be over here. It's trying to screw you. But in this case, it's just working for you. No, it never works for you. But I was trying to say, well, there has to be some clear research why this sapien sapien is used in double. Should have been a double mint gum commercial 20 years ago. It isn't clear. It's all over the place. It's just more strangeness. Let me just read this and go to the next slide. Homo sapiens sapiens, in anthropology and paleontology, the subspecies of Homo sapien that consists of only living members of genus Homo, modern human beings. Oh, the ones that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to put the headsets on? Is that the goal of the subspecies? Maybe. All right, guys, let me read this one, then we'll talk about it. It says, currently, HS sapiens, which is Homo sapiens sapiens, the double sapiens, is the only widely accepted subspecies. That's the key. The extra sapiens is a subspecies, identical, of Homo sapiens. Now, just let me pause. When I went to elementary school in the 70s, there was no mention of this extra sapiens. Okay, I'm sure all the older guard can confirm that. It seemed to pop up in a nefarious way, raised its ugly head about 20 to 25 years ago. And the necessity of this designation remains a matter of debate, since traditional taxonomic practice subdivides a species only when there is evidence of two or more distinct groups. Very interesting. We'll return to this. Several subspecies of Homo sapiens have been proposed. Proposed can be a homonym. Proposed that other species exist now, or proposed by Mark Zuckerberg into the future. But you put his headset on enough, potentially you become a subspecies. That's where I'm going here, and that's probably where they're going. The word proposed as a homonym, meaning what they have planned. But anyway, for example, Swedish naturalist and explorer who roamed around the Galapagos, Carl Linnaeus, in the 10th edition of Systema Naturae, sounds like suntan lotion, classified modern human beings into 4 subspecies according to geographic origin. So for anybody over age 45, 55, 60, 70 years old, all you've ever heard in academia is, hey, they would say you're a Homo sapien. There was no mention of sapien sapien. That's a subspecies, genus, species, subspecies. Why would it need to be created? Let me just float that question. Why would it need to be created if not nefarious, like potentially it may be? Why would it need to be created? Think about it. How would it even be accepted? When you have a subspecies, and it has to do, they're not doing the subspecies, or at least what they say, based on a spiritual disposition or the ability to carry a soul or anything. It's all based on the avatar. It's all based on the body, how the fingers work, do you walk upright, all that. That's what, of course, they say it's based on. They say it's based on. So what would necessitate the subspecies? If there is a subspecies, there should be 150 websites I could go to now that said, this is what a Homo sapien is here, and this is the difference in Homo sapien sapien. Even if that difference is the little finger is 2 millimeters shorter, that doesn't seem to exist. So who introduced the subspecies and why, and how come we can't see, or it's not laid out what the difference is if this is all about comparing the bodies or the avatars? See what I'm saying? If this is the case and we are considered, or we have been considered Homo sapien sapien with a extra doublemint gum sapien, then where's the skeletons, or where is the fossil records of Homo sapien? Wouldn't that be an extinct species then? Or does it still exist? See, they're not clear on this. It makes no sense. And, well then, Matt, if it's nefarious, what are they trying to do? I don't know. Create a subspecies of walking zombie, potentially. But this just doesn't add up, as you can see. It doesn't really say here, but I believe this was from Columbia University or columbia.edu, so it's real creepy. And I don't love the title here, but I would have used the slide anyway. I don't want to focus too much on the title, but it is creepy. Introduced Species Summary Project. This is all about, and it's written like an alien is writing up. It's like if the Predator was taking notes on what he found with Schwarzenegger's group in the jungle. It's written like that, and it's called Introduced Species Summary Project. So if you can't see this, is too small, I'll read it to you. But it goes all the way back to the, I don't know how far back it goes, the one-celled organisms, the phylum or division, Chordata. Then it goes up to subphylum, Vertebrata, class, Mammalia, mammals, order of primates, family, Hominidae, if I'm pronouncing that right, subfamily, Pongidae. Then you have genus, species, Homo, species, sapien, and then they've created 25 years ago, for what reason, subspecies, Homo sapiens sapiens, as it says here. Common name, as if the Predator was writing this up, modern human, man, or the naked ape. And here's the description. Thanks, Columbia. Thanks, Ray. Thank you, son. Thanks, Columbia. This is what they write, just like the Predator would write. It's an ape. They're talking about us. It's an ape with bipedal posture. Skin may be various shades of beige, dark brown, light brown. Hair primarily blah, 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 blah. Has opposable thumbs and nails. Blah, blah, blah. Builds shelters of all sizes and shapes. Some populations are nomadic. Second to last paragraph. Original distribution. Species Homo sapiens is believed to have originated in East Africa, in what is now Ethiopia, about 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. Subspecies Homo sapiens sapiens was originated by Mark Zuckerberg. No, it says modern man emerged at 40,000 to 130,000 years ago, but solid evidence in this field is scarce, and theories are always changing as new data is found. And somebody just fired their rubber ducky real hard at the wall, saying, Matt, well, what's the problem? The problem is you can't have it both ways. Okay, you cannot have it both ways. There was absolutely an introduction in the scientific community, maybe I'm getting the timing wrong, it doesn't matter, 20, 25 years ago, whenever I noticed it, of the extra sapien, Homo sapiens sapien. You just can't introduce that for fun. Who was the first guy or girl to introduce that? How would this happen? Somebody that's the head of anthropology at Harvard or something, MIT or Cambridge. We need to introduce a subspecies, Homo sapiens sapien. Then there would have to be some boring-ass lecture, right? Here's why we need to introduce the subspecies, right? There would have to be a different characteristic, or it's been so zombified by what's been put in the water that they all accepted it. There had to be an introduction for a reason. Even if that reason is not shared with you and me, it's shared behind their closed doors, whatever it may be. Okay, then now why do a lot of these websites, they flounder back and forth like, well, we're not really accepting of the subspecies now, sapien, sapien, and some are, some aren't. It flounders back and forth. Well, how would it have possibly been introduced and then rescinded? Does that make any sense? Now, we've seen it in enough different places that this subspecies, even if they're trying to rescind it now for whatever reason, it existed. Okay, it was put out in the scientific community and accepted. It just pops up in too many places. Most of you have come across where it's listed with the double mint gum Sapien sapiens. Okay. If that's the case, then that by definition means that Homo sapiens sapiens is modern human. Then where is the evidence? Show me. If I go down to the Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia, there should be a freaking gigantic exhibit on the subspecies. This is what we were, the Homo sapiens. It doesn't exist. That's why there's something very nefarious going on here, in my opinion. Almost like the Sapien sapiens. It's almost, you know what I'll relate it back to? Might as well just turn the conspiracy dial all the way to 10. Kind of like when Ellen had that selfie moment. To me, that was an announcement. That was an announcement that they crossed a certain critical plateau. They've developed so many zombies through the internet and social media. It was an announcement or a congratulation for themselves. It was a pat on the back for themselves. I don't care. You can look it up and see it was sponsored by Samsung. I don't buy or care about any of that bullshit. The Ellen selfie moment was a pat on the back saying, we've reached a critical milestone in how these zombies have now accepted social media. It was an ode to themselves and a pat on the back. That could be what the introduction of the subspecies was for, Homo sapiens sapiens. It could be an announcement that, okay, we have molded these sons of bitches into a subspecies. Think about it. Think about it. It is an announcement to themselves that, but then they're not gonna say that in any literature you can look up. I mean, they're gonna say, but see, if what they say in the literature, we don't need no literature. You got to feel it, Mr. Bank. It doesn't matter. If it says that the subspecies Sapien sapien came about, it says 40,000 to 130,000 years ago, well, then there should be tons of exhibits showing the difference between the species and the subspecies, which doesn't exist. Because none of this exists, it points that it could be in some way nefarious. We've created the modern Frankenstein zombie, and we will classify a subspecies. No one will care, no one will notice, and the real reason for the subspecies we'll just reserve for ourselves when Jared serves us at cocktail parties. Last paragraph I'll read, and it's written as coldly as if the predator himself were taking notes up in the trees while camouflaged. Current distribution of this new species that I've found on this place called Earth. Current distribution worldwide. Extremely adaptable and intelligent. It has acclimated to, it's the predator writing this, it has acclimated to nearly every ecosystem throughout evolutionary and through technological means, has become established on all 7 continents, and is beginning to colonize the planet's orbital regions. What? Primarily found on land. What is this, water world? May also be found for short periods on water surface. Yeah. Kevin Costner and the one eye was the right eye symbolism from the guy that was in Speed in Waterworld. And it's in air and it's on water surfaces and in the air in transports. This is for Empire Strikes Back. The first transport is away. The first transport is on land. It prefers coastal locations or regions near water sources. Folks, it could not be written any more coldly. It could not be written any more like the alien. It doesn't surprise me. It's from Columbia.edu. And this is fascinating. Let's break the last paragraph down in like a Freudian fashion, if you will. A Freudian fashion. The alien, the cold-ass alien that wrote this, doesn't even like to, like when Andy Dufresne is underlining on the blackboard for Tommy, there's a subject and a predicate. There's a personified subject like he, it, she, a pronoun, something, man, Homo sapiens sapien. It doesn't even like to use a subject. It doesn't even want to assign a personified word to a human. That's how low fiddlin' bends it thinks this species is as it describes it as the predator. I'm not even entirely joking here, guys. I'm mostly not joking. Look at the first sentence. Extremely adaptable and intelligent. It has acclimated to nearly every ecosystem. That's the only time it uses a subject or a personified noun, if I'm using the word correctly. That's the only time, and it's it. Next one. Just starts with has become established. What? Tommy would be like, where's the subject, Andy? How am I going to pass my GDTs with this? Has become established on all 7 continents. Next one. Just starts with primarily found on land. What? It is primarily found on land? Homo sapiens sapiens primarily found on land? We? How about who wrote it? How about we are primarily found on land? Whatever cold being wrote this wants to disassociate. When I was joking originally that it was written by the predator up in the trees, but now I'm not so sure. Columbia EDU might be far worse. Last sentence. On land, prefers coastal locations. Where's the it? Where's the damn personified subject? This is incredible. Incredible. Why not just say we? If this could be the best evidence of all time that these creatures are separate entities. Second paragraph. Right now, we define ourselves as Homo sapiens sapiens to distinguish us from Homo sapiens idaltu and Homo sapiens neanderthalenus, or whatever it is. Let's just say Neanderthal man. Okay. This is from Quora, or somebody wrote this in, but I found a lot of this sort of thing, and here are the strange takeaways. First off, Homo sapiens sapiens is still generally accepted. Okay, the second item. There are other types of Homo sapiens. That's news to me. There are other types of Homo sapiens. Here it says Homo sapiens Neanderthal man. Right. Again, this is no great example, but I found this several places. I did find a few places. It was 80-20. I found a few places that said science now no longer considers Neanderthal man Homo sapiens. It's its own thing. But most things I came across, I think it was even Britannica, still labeled Neanderthal man as Homo sapien, as a subspecies. That's not anything that was ever taught to me. It was always, look, does it really matter either way? We didn't come from these lines of creepy crawling things anyway, but that's just not the way it was presented. The whole aspect here, as usual, is to confuse. Put it in that second category of yesterday's video, to confuse at every turn. It is a master at this. What could be more basic than just understanding, or somebody that goes and believes what science tells them they are, an understanding of your basic genus and species? Shouldn't there be some consistency at that root level? Even at the root level, it's all confused. That's just the way it has to do business. And then this is all new to me. There's another type of Homo sapien called Homo sapien idaltu. I had never heard of it. Look, guys, when we grew up, at least science was pretty consistent. Man, woman, that can turn the radio on and go food shopping. Anything we call man, woman, no matter what the skin color or where they're from, this is a Homo sapien. And it's unique, and there's nothing else. There ain't no other types of Homo sapiens. At least in the past, it was consistent. Okay, let's look at this little freak. The Lepedo child. They're actually telling us now that the Neanderthal man mated and mixed species with Homo sapien. They're telling us that now, and they're convinced that via the Lepedo child. Is it Geppetto? Pinocchio child? Geppetto? Maybe, but Lepedo. They're telling us that the Neanderthal man, like the Nephilim, mixed with the Homo sapien. That's news to me. I don't get the Paleontology Today magazine and keep up with this stuff, but it's all look, guys, the knot is out to confuse at every turn. So let's look at this little freak. The Lepedo child, found in Portugal, given a ceremonial burial with pierced shell and red ochre. I don't know what you're saying right now. Was alive approximately 24,000.5 KYA, I guess 1,000 years ago. 24.5 thousand years ago. That's not that far back, guys. I mean, they tell us Egypt, in ancient Egypt, 3,000, 3,500, Mesopotamia, all that, 5,000. That's not that far back. The little Lepedo child should still be running around today. I'm just going to read the first and the last paragraph. Pause it if you want to read the middle. There's really not much here. The Lagar Velho 1, also known as Lagar Velho boy or Lepedo child, is a complete prehistorical skeleton found in Portugal, believed to be a hybrid that had a Neanderthal parent and an anatomically modern human parent. Bottom paragraph. This was contested by several scientists, including Professor Dr. C.P.E. Zollenkofer of the University of Zurich, who concluded the skeleton does not reveal Neanderthal affinities. Well, how would you know Neanderthal affinities, Professor Dr. C.P.E. Zollenkofer? You can't even spell your name right. However, genetic work from a decade later, see the technology has taken over, making Professor Dr. C.P. Zollenkofer look like an idiot. Genetic work taken over has shown that there is indeed instances of admixture between Neanderthals and modern humans, bringing the hybrid hypothesis back within the realm of possible. I'll use this as the summary image to summarize what was presented here, and then we'll remember the most important points at the end to actually cut off ties with these types of labels to come up with our own genus and species if you want to, or a name that is not of the legal fiction, to cut these ties. That is the most important point. Never, ever call yourself a human being, ever. That sort of thing. So, but let me just start with the absolute basics. These diagrams, which we've seen our entire lives, of the thing crawling around, flopping around in the mud, and then becomes the monkey man, becomes the man. You know my thoughts on this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And hopefully somebody in our community will have the chance to debate one of these Darwinian idiots, or at least one of their acolytes, like a university professor. It'd be so simple. You just say, Mr. Professor, Mr. Wizard, has anything ever been born that's been different from its parent? Has science ever recorded anything born that has ever been different from its parent? I'm not talking about birth defects or two-headed fish in the Schuylkill River, things like that. The species itself, no. Nothing has ever been born that has not been the same as its parent, okay? Science has zero record of that. Let me put you the identical. Zero. Let's point number 2. Has anything been born species A at birth and has evolved into species B per its natural life? It died something different than it was born as. Maybe Homo sapien sapien, crafted by Mark Zuckerberg, but that's not what where I'm going here. It's debating a scientist. No, nothing was ever born a cockatoo and died a lizard. There's no species change during the course. So when does the species change happen? If nothing has ever been born different from its, well, Matt, you don't understand. It's so slow over thousands and thousands of years that it's not going to be detectable in a single lifetime. Okay. As you'd go back and forth in your debate at the cocktail party with this egghead, you'd never get anywhere. He or she would never see your position. You'd never see theirs. The fact that it would be so slow and it would be undetectable in the course of a lifetime. See, the sun would have one hair less, just one hair less than the monkey mother. And you do that over millions of years and you see how it could happen, Matt. So you wouldn't get anywhere. But here's where you would get somewhere. Ask the egghead or the acolyte of the egghead to explain how the first fish got up on the land. This is my favorite one. So this is the way it would have had to have happened. Of course, it one-celled organisms. It came from the sea. We all know, every Darwin person would spout that out. How did the first fish get up onto the land? Oh, it learned to breathe. And why? What's the reason for going up on the land? There would only be one reason for going up on the land. The first little creature that popped its head up out of the first little sea monkey that popped its head up out of the ocean and even thought about going up on land. There'd only be one reason to do it: food. So let's just say it spent 42 million years flopping around in low tide pools, and somehow its gills evolved to breathe some air, and all that stuff it has to do perfectly to be able to survive up on land for a few seconds. It's just flopping around in shallow tide pools, evolving over millions. Let's just say, okay, the first time it would go up on the land, it would call back to its buddies and it would say, "There's no fucking food up here." And it would crawl back down into the water. There's no food up there. There's nothing it could possibly adapt to. What's the egghead or the acolyte of the egghead going to come back with? Oh, sure, there are grasses. There could be bush, rudimentary Paleolithic trees. Well, the thing has been in the sea, its ancestors, for millions of years. It's adapted to eating things in the ocean. Okay, what is it? It can't, like a cow and its cud, just go up and start chewing the grass or eating roots or stripping the bark off trees like beavers. It's a sea creature. It can only potentially survive up on land short stints. The way a snakehead fish can slither from one little pool in Indonesia to another. It can't stay out of the water that long. It can a few minutes to slither to the next pool. But it doesn't have time to evolve into eating what a cow would eat with its cud. You understand? It can't work. There's no way this possibly can work. Whatever, maybe something got out of the sea at some point, but it would get right back in and it would never come out again. That'd be the end of it. We'd all be swimming around like Waterworld. Well, how'd we get here then, Matt? Mr. Wizard? I don't know. Who cares? It has nothing to do with the personal journey of me finding or understanding my spiritual self and aspects of us that aren't here, cutting ties with this place, never calling yourself a human being, not accepting the genus and species Homo sapien or the Zuckerberg Homo sapien sapien, rejecting every bit of it through a pronounce that you reject it, affirmations, say it out loud, you reject it, rejecting even the straw man name, coming up with alternative names like Nuanda, moving away from all this nonsense. It's an illusory world. There's no way. Once you track it back through the maze, and eventually you come to a wall on this stuff very quickly. It becomes like a reality breakdown. There is no way to explain it. We don't fit in with our environment. The human being is weak. I mean, there's a freezing cold, whipping winds this winter, and I mean, just cold. 8, 7 degrees, -6 or -5 with wind chill. And we're not anywhere near here in Pennsylvania what they get in Maine and Minnesota and the Dakotas. And then outside, you look right outside, is a bird sitting on a limb and with a little thick little coat. Now, I don't know, how does that thing survive? Human beings, we're not, if Darwin was real, we would have thick skin. We wouldn't get sunburn. Sunburn is the number one thing of all time. A really white Irish person goes out in a Florida sun in January, they get burned in 30 minutes. That simply wouldn't be possible if per evolution. All humans all over the world, no matter what your latitude or longitude, would have learned, the skin over millions of years would have learned to adapt to something. It's the sun. You know, something that the Paleolithic man or whatever would be out every day farming, gathering. It would have, if it didn't adapt to the sun, then what is it going to adapt to? If all this happened, Monkey Man became human, and then the skin, don't you think the skin would have, so that whatever adaptations the face of the chimpanzee or the baboon has, so it doesn't get burned, we didn't hold that. I mean, it just breaks down at every turn. It's ridiculous. In this regard, the egghead you'd be arguing with at the cocktail party would have their excuses and counter excuses. Well, it's called pigmentation. Those if you haven't noticed, Matt, those by the equator have darker skin or brown skin, and those up in the northern latitudes of Norway, they're whiter skin. It's still things like that don't make any sense. Then you could go back to the egghead and say, well, why does the Eskimo then is hairless? The Eskimo, the Greeks. The Greeks, people like George Papadopoulos, George Michael, I worked with a Greek chef. He would shave in the morning and he had the thickest beard in the world, not fully grown in down like Dumbledore, but thick shadow by 5 o'clock. So he had this huge bush of fur that would come up under his neck. Huge hairy people. That's Greece, dude. But the Eskimos, hairless. They're freezing their asses off up there. All this shit doesn't add up. No one's going to say the Eskimos got there, they arrived up there in 1925. They're indigenous peoples. All this shit doesn't make sense. Of all the examples of bird, animal, and insect that just completely obliterates the quote, theory of evolution, it can never drop the term theory, is the lightning bug. What would a Darwinian egghead or an alkalite say about the lightning bug? I don't know how familiar people are around the world. In Pennsylvania, these bugs come they come right before July 4th, I guess the middle of June. They're only here for 4 to 6 weeks, and it's at dusk. It's not when it's pitch black. Right at dusk, there's a good 20 minutes of light left. These flashes out your window or in the woods, is that a great evolutionary technique to flash, to tell your every predator where you are, say, come get me. Every minute or two it flashes, and it continues to flash for only about an hour or so after it gets completely dark. By, I don't know, usually by 11 o'clock there aren't any more. It doesn't do it all night long, just for a few hours. Okay, it has zero assistance in helping it survive. Why would it evolve like that? But forget that. I'm not even talking about that. How does this even happen? The bug literally, with I don't know the chemical reaction it makes, it flashes like a light. How could this possibly evolve like that? It's just not possible. The amount of different varieties of birds with the incredible colors and the 1,000 different ranges of birds, and there some colors. Some birds have a blue beak, and others have bright yellow at the end of the wings. That all evolved over millions of years in a different path. It doesn't. It's impossible. And even if you don't like the bird example or the fish example, the lightning bug, what do the Darwinian eggheads and their acolytes say about this? No survival advantage. How does it even happen? When was the first? What did one of the lightning bug babies flash and its mother didn't flash? At what point did the evolution take place where the baby could flash and the mother can't flash? Like maybe that's like the little powers that Jack Jack has in The Incredibles, that all the mother could do is stretch and Jack Jack can do all this stuff. Is that what happened to the lightning bug? You Darwinian idiots! Thanks for listening.